I'll be honest, I had no clue what Invincible was before the show started airing on Amazon Prime, but I've been hooked on it ever since season 1. You'd expect a superhero with the what I would call generic overpowered powers kit to have a pretty boring show, but somehow every week it manages to captivate myself and many of you guys watching this video right now. This is due to the strong character dynamics, world building, and sense of tension that's built up in most of the episodes, which leaves Mark and many of the other characters teetering on the line of life and death. I believe the world of Invincible is meant to be a clear contrast of those built within the major comic companies, for example Marvel and DC, and this is shown through the parody characters and how they operate versus the gods among men in those respective companies. Everyone feels human and vulnerable despite their incredible power. Even Omni-Man was proven to be susceptible to his emotions, causing him to abandon his duties as a Viltrumite. This takes us back to Mark, who starts out very optimistic about his career as a superhero, but as the seasons have progressed, he has slowly come to abandon his ideal version of a hero, and instead he does what's best for Earth while attempting to follow his morals as closely as possible. By the way, Mark, please stop holding back. Today I want to explore the tragic truth of the reality that Invincible inhabits and what those lessons can tell us about the nature of people. Before we get started, I want to make sure you guys have left a like and subscribed. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers and we will hit that soon with your support. If you really think about it, most comic book worlds are constantly under threat and would probably not be a comfortable living situation. The most famous example of this would probably be Gotham, as it's portrayed as a crime-riddled city, and modern internet culture has picked up on this to use it as a synonym for a bad city. However, the difference is that the heroes that protect cities like Gotham give hope for these cities and imply that there is a light at the end of the tunnel on a macro level when it comes to the state of the Earth. In Invincible, this is not the case. In fact, it feels as if the past few seasons had presented Mark with situations that are more realistic when dealing with these hyperbolic situations. A great example of this actually comes from the most recent season, where Mark goes forward in time to save the future from the strongest character in the series, the Immortal. To summarize what happens, the Immortal is left in charge of Earth in the future by a future version of Mark, and during Mark's absence, he goes crazy, which is, I'm guessing, due to the pressure of being in charge. This led to a very authoritarian world with absolutely no hope, with the only solution to it being that someone must kill the Immortal to give control of the world back to the people. We can even go back to season 1, when Mark and his father Nolan, or better known as Omni-Man, fought across the skies and through the cities for the freedom of Earth. During this period, Mark was a lot more optimistic about the state of the world, as he tried his best to save as many people as he could while fighting a bloodlusted Superman, but every single time he came up short. Even saying all of this, there is the argument that Mark is consistently getting stronger, so eventually he will be able to save everyone, but I don't think that's the case. No matter how strong Mark gets, there isn't a perfect ending for everyone, and he's always going to have to make life-altering decisions while protecting people. Not only that, but his power, alongside all of his allies, are going to have to be honed through some sort of hard work or sacrifice. The story makes it clear that unlike the ideal version of superhero work, which has the squeaky clean portrayal, the actual reality of it is it's grim, with everyone constantly having to push their own limits in order to survive, let alone save others from planetary threats. Sure, the people of Earth definitely feel safer after the heroes catch the local bank robber, but watching someone with the same strength as Omni-Man attacking Earth every couple of months would surely keep these people on edge, especially when their top tier heroes constantly die to protect them. Again, going back to the theme of the ideal superhero, Mark constantly spares his enemies, which has proven to almost always have detrimental or negligible effects on the state of the Earth. This key theme is explored heavily in Season 3, as the season starts off with Dark Seismic, a relatively weak supervillain, who manages to amass an army of underground creatures who are relatively strong compared to Earth's heroes at the time. Later on, Angstrom Levy, a person with the power to travel the multiverse, comes back to our Mark's universe to start the Invincible War. Originally, Angstrom had good intentions with his powers, which were to increase his knowledge and understanding by exploring other universes, and use that to help his universe progress in various means, but due to a misunderstanding, Mark mistakes his good intentions for evil ones and ends up turning Angstrom into a villain. Initially, Angstrom only targeted Mark while pursuing his revenge, which he attempted to carry out by kidnapping his family and drawing him out to a fight. However, once that plan failed and almost left Angstrom dead, he resorted to attacking Mark's Earth by starting the Invincible War, which involved bringing different Invincibles across the multiverse that were more evil compared to our Invincible. This alludes back to the idea that no matter how strong our Mark gets, his villains are going to continually grow, which means that he's not going to be able to save everybody. In fact, he is more than likely making Earth a lot more dangerous than what it should be, which is something I want to touch upon in a second. This line of thinking actually parallels what happened in the Dragon Ball series with Goku, as he decided to not be revived by the Dragon Balls during the Cell Saga due to him believing that he is contributing to the danger of Earth due to his power. Which he is 100% correct about to an extent. Goku a good portion of the time spares his enemies to let them get stronger, but the difference is that Goku has an uncanny ability to rally all kinds of people to his side. In Invincible, I'd actually argue he has similar attributes, but he doesn't have the magical paws that can instantly correct his mistakes. His villains are much more realistic, which means that every time he fights a villain and they are spared, there is a 50-50 chance that they come back stronger and threaten the Earth. This is actually why Mark ends up adopting Oliver's mentality at the end of the season, as logically it does make sense. However, this is not me saying this is the correct path, as a topic like this has a lot more layers to it, especially if these villains were closer to street level. But as Mark gets stronger, as we've seen, he will attract stronger enemies that will go above and beyond to destroy Mark. This is especially true due to Mark's Viltrumite heritage, which has caused Mark to have to deal with many messed up and traumatic situations. Starting with Season 1, again, Mark fights his father due to Nolan's Viltrumite duties to seize the planet under Viltrumite rule, which leaves Mark incredibly distraught as he comes to terms with his identity as a Viltrumite, his father's actual intentions about his family, and the level of power he's actually dealing with compared to what he's been shown on Earth. He's also left brutally beat down by Nolan, almost to death, which again shows where Nolan's priorities lied before he was changed by one of the most powerful lines in the series, after asking Mark what he'd have done after 1,000 years, in which Mark replied,
"What will you have after 500 years?
You, Dad. I still have you.
In Season 2, Anissa, a Viltrumite warrior, threatens Mark's ex-girlfriend Amber and proceeds to attempt to convince Mark to join their empire. She does this by explaining the benefits of joining the empire to Mark and helps him save a cruise that was being attacked by a monster. After Mark declines, she proceeds to defeat him swiftly, which left Cecil to ask Mark to falsely concede, as he believed that the Guardians of the Globe and any other weapon that they had would be unable to defeat her. Afterwards, she mentions to Mark that another Viltrumite would come to destroy Earth if Mark did not fulfill his duty, which again increased the danger to Earth and likely had Mark believing he was to blame. In Season 3, this promise is fulfilled with the introduction of Aaron the plumber. I meant Conquest. Sorry, they both just seem so similar to me. Conquest states that he doesn't even have a name, only a purpose, which implies that he is known for conquest and is likely one of the most dangerous Viltrumites. He fights Mark with the help of Oliver, his half-brother, which Oliver nearly gets ripped in half from. Mark then receives help from Atom Eve, which leaves her on the brink of death too, which causes Mark to break down and call for Cecil's help.
Don't try to talk, okay? Cecil! I need you, Cecil! Please keep breathing.
This is significant, as for those of you that don't know, earlier on in the season, Mark and Cecil fall out massively due to Mark's morals and Cecil's tactics, as he believed D.A. Sinclair and Darkwing should be in prison, but instead they're helping out in Earth's defense. What caused Mark to completely sever ties with Cecil was that Cecil implanted a sound weapon in Mark's head to subdue him, which was done after a previous battle which left Mark bedridden. Moreover, Mark and Atom Eve started dating after he broke up with Amber, so watching someone he loved get ripped apart and borderline die would have been very traumatic. This is actually a smart contrast to many popular superhero team-ups, as a lot of the time in comics, many characters are super close to each other but seemingly are able to come out of impossible situations unscathed. However, this scene shows that having your friends and lovers as superheroes would be incredibly stressful, and rather than dying off in an off-screen explosion, likely they will get ripped apart in front of your eyes as the enemy looks over you and blows you a blood kiss. But pause if needed. Pause if needed. A parallel I do want to mention is the Bat family. There are many stories which deals with the loss of characters within Batman lore, but the majority of the time they are massive unexpected moments, whereas in Invincible, every fight these characters enter seem like it could be their last. Another thing that I do want to shine some light on is Mark's situation with Sinclair, as the reason why he was so passionate about keeping him behind bars is because he affected William and Rick's lives in a dramatic way. Quickly, for those of you that don't know, William is Mark's best friend and Rick is his boyfriend, who was altered permanently as he was turned into a reaniman, but with Caesar's help, his body was reconstructed. To add on to that, I also want to bring up Angstrom again, as the reason why Mark attempted to kill him at the end of season 2 was because he heavily injured Mark's mother Debbie and threatened both her and Oliver. The last parallel I want to give to this part of the video would be Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in the Amazing Spider-Man series, as he states that once he lost Gwen, he stopped pulling his punches, which implied he was more brutal and potentially killed some of his villains. Obviously, Mark's reasoning would be much more different again due to the power level of his villains, but this clearly shows that all logical reasoning does get thrown out the window once family gets involved. These scars leave people jaded, and is likely the reason why they say either heroes die or they live long enough to eventually become the villain. This brings me back to Cecil, as he is the epitome of this theme of doing morally bankrupt things in order to do good. Originally, Cecil was a lot like Mark and refused to work with people that were criminals, specifically with those that did horrendous things. However, as time went on and he was hand-selected to be the leader of the GDA, he ended up figuring out that people deserve a second chance, especially if their skill set could lead to Earth being better defended. Mark's no-kill rule becomes hazy after the Invincible War and Conquest situation, as he starts to see where Cecil is coming from, even though he still does not want to work for him directly. Again, a character like Batman is a good parallel to this, as his criminals are constantly causing crime in Gotham, and honestly, it does beg the question as to why he doesn't just kill his villains. However, there's been many instances of Batman villains turning over a new leaf, so the same could be said about Invincible's villains, but that would be the perfect scenario. D.A. Sinclair and Darkwing are the prime examples of rehabilitation, but as Mark is still young, I believe that he still held on to his idealism until the end of the season where he was left to confront it. Was it worth it to try and subdue Conquest? Interestingly, Mark tried to reason with him either out of fear or the safety of the people of Earth, but as expected, Conquest declined. Mark Grayson and the world of Invincible gives us a raw and unfiltered look as to what it truly means to be a superhero. It doesn't glamorize the capes and powers, instead, it focuses on the aftermath, the trauma, and the hard truths that come with defending a world that's constantly on the edge of collapse. In this universe, power isn't just a gift, it's a burden. One that affects not just the person who holds it, but everyone they care about. Mark's ongoing struggle to hold on to his ideals, despite everything he's seen and lost, is what makes him compelling. But it also begs the question, when the dust of Earth eventually fades and 1,000 years have passed, what will he truly have left? Alright, so that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I know you guys were probably not expecting me to do an Invincible video, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I've had this one, at least an idea for this, cooking up since, I guess, last month. But I didn't really know what to do until the end of the season, but now I've kind of got it, I kind of got the picture, and I hope you guys enjoyed what I was able to come up with. Again, we can do more Invincible videos, you know, I'll have to see how well this video does, and obviously, you know, make sure to leave a like and comment, because that will let me know that you guys want to see more Invincible videos. We can look at certain characters more in depth. And yeah, just make sure to leave comments on any other series you want me to look at. Like, I feel like this is the first, other than my JJK video, this is my second video that I've done that's on a TV show / an anime / another media project rather than video games. So I'm quite interested to see how this one does. But again, I'm gonna leave it on that. Again, thank you very much for watching. If you like my commentary and are new to the channel, please leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care and have a lovely rest of your day. Thank you.